There is a version of this story where the headline writes itself. The baddest woman in the history of women's boxing, two-time Olympic gold medalist, the self-proclaimed GWOT, Claressa Shields, strolls into State Farm Arena in Atlanta on August 15th, does what she does every single time. Stops K. Scott in the 6th round, and adds 2 more belts to a collection that supposedly does not fit in a normal house anymore. And in that version of the story, that is the whole conversation, and we all go home happy. But that is not the version we are living in. In the version we are living in, the man who is still legally married to another woman spent the biggest week of his girlfriend's professional life documenting himself getting her name tattooed on his arm, posting it for the entire internet. While the woman he is still legally married to, one of the most decorated female rappers the culture has ever produced, was dropping records and calling his name out from festival stages, like she was daring both of them to keep playing with her. So let me stop you right here, because the framing on this whole situation has been wrong from the very first post, and I need you to understand what you are actually watching. This was never a boxing story. It was never even really a love story. This is a story about optics versus paperwork, about a man who built his entire public identity on the word loyalty, treating the most sacred promise he ever made like a contract he plans to keep extending forever without ever signing the final page. Everybody watched the knockout. Everybody commented on the tattoo. And almost nobody connected the two. But they're the same story. And by the time we get to the part where I break down exactly why the ink on his arm and the court docket cannot both be true at the same time, and I promise you, with everything that happened this week, we are getting there. You are going to realize that this was never 2 women fighting over one man. It is one man performing love in public while refusing to close the chapter in private, and the only people losing are the ones who still believe the performance is real. Now sit down, because the receipts are coming in waves. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Now, for anybody tuning in who has somehow missed the last year of absolute chaos, let me bring you up to speed, because the backstory is genuinely important here. Papoose and Remy Ma are hip-hop royalty when it comes to love stories, and I mean that sincerely, because the origin is genuinely legendary. He proposed to her on a radio stage back in 2008, in that era where a public proposal was the ultimate romantic flex, and the two of them became the couple that the culture pointed to when it wanted to believe in something real. And then the real test came. Remy Ma went away. She was sentenced in 2008 and spent roughly 6 years incarcerated, and Papoose was right there, holding it down, showing up, rapping about her, visiting, being the ride or die that every woman in the culture prayed she had. That period built his entire brand. I Waited for My Wife Through Prison is one of the most powerful images a man in hip-hop can have, and Papoose milked it for everything it was worth, and honestly, at the time, he deserved the credit, because it was real. Fast forward, Remy comes home in 2014, the reunion is celebrated, the brand is intact, they are the comeback story. And then, allegedly, behind closed doors, everything that the public image was hiding started catching up. Now I want to be extremely careful and extremely clear here, because this is where the story gets messy and both sides have versions. What we know for certain, from public court filings reported by multiple outlets, is that Papoose filed for divorce on May 22, 2025, claiming that Remy Ma cheated on him multiple times after her release from prison. He also said publicly that he waited to file in order to protect their daughter. Remy Ma, for her part, has countered publicly, and this is her side, reported by outlets like Complex, that Pap is the one holding up the divorce, that he allegedly wants half of everything she built, that she allegedly financially supported him for years, and that he allegedly was doing everything but signing papers. And then, of course, there is the third point of this triangle, Claressa Shields, the GWOT, who reportedly says the relationship started after the separation, who told the Breakfast Club hosts she and Pap have been together for about 1.5 years and that people need to move on. So, what are the actual stakes here? Let me break them down, because this is not just gossip. Financially, you have an alleged settlement dispute over half of a substantial net worth, and that is not a small conversation. Reputationally, you have a man whose entire career is built on being the loyal one, now facing a public narrative that says he is dragging out a divorce while living publicly with another woman, and that is a brand catastrophe in real time. Culturally, you have one of the greatest female rappers ever being reduced to a punchline in a love triangle, and one of the greatest female boxers ever being reduced to the other woman in a storyline she cannot seem to stop feeding. And structurally, you have two entertainment machines, boxing and hip-hop, both extracting content from an unresolved legal mess, which brings me to the question this whole video is going to answer. Why is a man who says he wants peace doing everything in his power to make sure the story never ends? So let us start with the surface, the stuff that is right there in the open, the stuff you can pull up on your phone in 10 seconds and verify yourself, because the first layer of this story is already wild enough on its own. Evidence number 1, and it is the foundation of everything. On August 15, 2026, at State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Claressa Shields walked into the ring against Kay Scott and stopped her in the 6th round, taking the WBA and WBC middleweight titles, reportedly in front of a building that was, from every clip I have seen, genuinely full, which is itself worth pausing on, because weeks before this fight, the chatter on boxing forums was that tickets were not moving, that this event was a hard sell, and then somehow, mysteriously, the building filled up and the internet turned into one giant commercial for the GWAT. And look, I am not taking anything away from Claressa Shields in the ring tonight. She did what she does. She is the greatest female boxer of this era. Full stop. 2 Olympic golds, titles in 3 divisions, and a professional record that most fighters would retire on. But here is where I need everybody to put their thinking caps on for a second. She stopped a fighter in the 6th round who, by the way, had reportedly only had a handful of professional fights, and the way the online discourse has been framed, this was a coronation. Meanwhile, the honest analysis from people who actually watch the sport was simple. This fight should have been over in 2 or 3 rounds, and the fact that it went 6 is not a testament to drama. It is a testament to whatever the broadcast needed it to be. I want the legitimate attendance numbers, and I want the allegedly reported payout from the commission, because I am telling you right now, and we are going to get deep into this later, this entire night was built around something bigger than boxing. And the boxing was the excuse for everything else that was happening in that building. Evidence number 2, and this one is genuinely beautiful in its absurdity. After the fight, after the press conference, Claressa Shields reportedly gave the belts back to Kay Scott. Let me just let that marinate. You spend months building up the bad guy narrative, you sell the fight on all that Cash App talk, you are in the ring talking that whoop, that trick business, and then, with the cameras rolling, you hand the belts back to the woman you just beat. In a moment that is being presented as sportsmanship, and reportedly, Terence Crawford did the exact same thing last year with Canelo Alvarez, returning belts as a sign of respect when he moved up in weight. So on one hand, fine, it is a classy gesture, I can acknowledge that. But on the other hand, and here is where my eyebrow is permanently raised, the narrative whiplash is doing heavy lifting for the brand. The machine wants you to see the mean mugging and the trash talk, and then it wants you to see the gracious champion, because both versions of Claressa Shields are profitable, and the only thing that is not profitable is the boring truth in the middle. And I also cannot help but notice the timing. This gracious moment, this return of the belts, happened right as the internet was asking pointed questions about who this fight was really for and why so many reality television stars were in the building. As if the sportsmanship moment was custom-built to change the subject. You see what I am doing here? I am not saying it was fake. I am saying the optics are doing exactly what optics do in this economy. They are managing the story. Evidence number 3, and this is the one that launched 1,000 stan wars, the tattoo video. PAPOOSE'S, reportedly on the day around his girlfriend's fight, posted an Instagram video documenting himself getting the name Claressa tattooed on his left bicep, and now, this is the detail that makes it cinema. The video was soundtracked by Ed Sheeran's Thinking Out Loud, the most aggressively romantic ballad imaginable, and the artist, the tattoo artist Quan, kept it simple. No cover-up of the old ink, no laser removal, just the new name going onto skin that still, according to every clip I have seen, carries the name of the woman he is still legally married to. So let us inventory what is on this man's arm right now, because this is a museum of mixed messages. The Remy Ma tattoo, which he has reportedly never covered up, and the fresh Claressa ink, which he just paid for and filmed for the gram. And the release of this video was not an accident. It dropped into the exact window of the biggest professional moment of his new partner's career, which means it was not a private gesture that got leaked. It was a scheduled press release straight to the algorithm. You do not put Ed Sheeran on a tattoo video the night before your girlfriend's title fight because you are being spontaneous. You do that because you are sending a message to the internet, to the X, to the comment sections, and most importantly, to the woman in the ring whose emotional state directly affects whether she performs for the cameras. That is what this was, and I need y'all to stop pretending it was anything else. And evidence number 4, Because the receipt pile only gets better. The comment. Somebody in the comments on PAPOOSE'S post left the most reasonable, measured, actually kind of profound observation in the history of the saga, essentially saying, take that same ink and sign the papers. And everyone deserves to be loved properly without limitations, a comment that, by the way, was not even disrespectful, it was empathy disguised as a suggestion. And Papoose, allegedly, and I say allegedly because it reportedly might have been Claressa under his account, which is its own whole conversation, responded by attacking that person's body. You too skinny to be writing comments like this was allegedly the reply, an immediate ad hominem, a complete refusal to engage with the actual content, which was, you have time for ink, but apparently no time to finalize a divorce. So the man whose entire brand is loyalty, whose comeback story in hip-hop was built on waiting for his wife through incarceration, cannot handle a commenter gently suggesting that a finalized divorce might carry more weight than a tattoo. That is not a mature man having a measured response. That is a man who knows the comment is true, and the truer a comment is, the angrier the deflection gets. Every time I see that exchange, I keep hearing Remy Ma's own words about the situation, which I am going to get to in a second, and I keep thinking the same thing. Everything about you is all about the public image, regardless of how bad things may be behind the scenes. She said that. She said it into a microphone, publicly, about the father of her child, and he responded to a random skinny person in his comment section instead of addressing the actual woman who knows him best. And then, to complete the trifecta, we have the club footage from after the fight, the celebration, all the confetti, and there is Papoose, allegedly reported by multiple fan accounts, back on his phone, scrolling, texting, completely disconnected from the celebration happening around him, the same man who, at the press conference a few days earlier, was allegedly all over Claressa, moving chairs, scooting closer, making sure he was in every single camera frame, lights, camera, action. But now that the big lights are off and the cameras belong to fans instead of networks, the performance stopped and the man went back to his phone, allegedly in the middle of a celebration for a record-breaking win, scrolling like he had business that could not wait until Tuesday. Who is he texting at his girlfriend's victory party on a Saturday night? Is it damage control about the tattoo? Is it the other side of the coin? Is it the divorce attorney telling him the latest offer was rejected again? I do not know, and I am not going to pretend I do, but I know what it looks like, and what it looks like is a man who is only present when the cameras are rolling. And oh, do I have more for you? Because everything I just laid out, the fight, the belts, the tattoo, the comment, the phone, that was all layer one. That is the stuff you can verify with your own two eyes in about 4 minutes on any platform. But the real story, the one that shows you exactly who is running what and why this saga refuses to die, that is in the layer underneath, and I promise you, some of y'all are not going to like what I found down there. Now I want to be incredibly precise with my language here, because a lot of this is reported and alleged rather than confirmed, so hear me carefully. We know, reported by complex and multiple outlets, that Remy Ma dropped a record called WIFL that fans and the media alike connected directly to Papoose and Claressa Shields, with pointed bars denying the claims that Papoose wrote her material and taking aim at the situation as a whole. We also know, reportedly, that Papoos's attorney sent Remy Ma a cease and desist over the record, calling the lyrics, and I am quoting outlets here, profane and demanding she stop, allegedly threatening action if she kept performing it. And here is where it gets delicious. That cease and desist was reportedly filed back in April. Months. And in those months, according to multiple reports and fan footage, Remy Ma kept performing. She kept the record alive at festivals and appearances, and the legal letter that was supposedly meant to silence her did the exact opposite. It turned her into the most talked-about performer in the culture for a minute straight. Then came the Angie Martinez Summer Barbecue, and here is a detail that the competitor channels have been chewing on all week. Remy Ma reportedly switched up her own lyrics on stage and called Papoose out by name in front of a crowd at a cookout. A vibe that is supposed to be all love and burgers, and she put his name in the record anyway, because, and this is her reported perspective, she is tired, she is sick of the shenanigans, she wants the divorce done and her freedom back. And then, as if to prove she was not bluffing, Remy reportedly dropped another record, Wanna Go, timed right around the cease and desist headlines, and the internet immediately went to work parsing bars aimed at both Papoose and Claressa, with the whole situation now officially out of the kitchen and into the streets. Now here is where I want to slow down and give the counterargument its fair shake, because I know exactly what some of y'all are typing right now. You are typing, well, maybe Pap and Remy are both messy, maybe they both made mistakes, maybe we should not be taking sides in somebody else's divorce. And listen, I hear you, I really do, because on the surface, there is some truth in it. Divorce is painful, nobody comes out looking perfect, and I am not in that marriage, and neither are you. But here is the thing that makes me land where I land. One side has been publicly asking for this to end, and the other side has been publicly building a monument to keeping it alive. Remy Ma has said, reportedly, that the divorce will not be finalized until Papoose stops asking for half of everything, and that she will really be single once that stops, and regardless of which side you believe on the fault question. That is a person describing the exit door while the other person is adding fresh ink to his arm and posting it worldwide. You cannot tell me the man who has time to sit in a tattoo chair for a new girlfriend's name on the eve of her title fight does not have time to sign a piece of paper that's been sitting on a desk for over a year. That is not a schedule problem. That is a priority problem, and the priority problem is the entire thesis of this video. And I want to add one more cultural layer, because the celebrity element of this fight weekend is doing so much heavy lifting that it deserves its own paragraph. Reportedly, and this is a mix of confirmed clips and on-the-ground reporting from outlets and fan accounts, Kim Kardashian was in the building, which is wildly ironic when you remember that the celebrity undercard included Ray J, her former tape partner, who actually won his celebrity exhibition bout against Orlando Brown by unanimous decision, reportedly, with the whole thing happening under the Zeus Network umbrella of the night, and allegedly. And I want to keep this in the alleged lane. Because I have not verified it myself, Selena Gomez and Ariana Grande were also in attendance, and Usher was reportedly there while his ex-wife Tama Foster was also in the building, which means that building was a museum of exes. And the question everybody in the comment sections was asking, and I genuinely want you to answer this in the comments, was, are these people here for the boxing, or are these people here because the Zeus Network crossover machine is trying to put a new shine on? Celebrity fight culture in front of the whole internet? Because I saw Brandy reportedly in the building, and I am old enough to know that Brandy was not there for a middleweight title fight. And reportedly, according to a rumor I heard from someone who was on the journalism side down in Atlanta, Monique and Johnny Blaze were allegedly not allowed into VIP at first, and allegedly had to put in a call to Claressa herself to get in. Which, if true, is the kind of behind-the-velvet rope detail that tells you the event was a production, not a sporting event, and I am going to leave that right there. And finally, in this layer, I have to mention the prayer, because the prayer is the most surreal artifact of the whole weekend. Reportedly captured at a pre-fight gathering and later circulated by outlets including Essence's coverage, a pastor stood in front of Claressa's inner circle and prayed over her victory, and in that prayer he said something that had my whole timeline screaming. Any ops in the room, we bind it in the name of Jesus. Ops. In the room. A prayer asking God to handle the opposition that allegedly includes people standing in the same physical space, and I want everybody to understand what that says about the energy surrounding this situation. That pastor felt something off in that room. That is what that prayer was. Somebody in that building was not there for the right reasons, and the man of God needed to bind whatever it was in Jesus' name before the night went sideways. And in that same video, reportedly, you can see Papoose in the frame, and the Remy Ma tattoo is reportedly still fully visible on his arm, not covered. Not hidden, just there, while the pastor is calling down the binding on the ops, and Claressa reportedly standing there like she has something to prove to the whole internet. Does everybody understand how crazy that image is? A woman at the peak of her athletic powers, surrounded by a support system that needs to pray the opposition out of the room, standing next to a man whose past is literally inked into his skin, while the entire culture watches and asks the same question. What are we actually doing here? Now I need all of us to take a hard left turn, because we have been talking about personalities, and personalities are entertainment, but the reason this story never ends is not personalities, it is business. And I need everybody to put the popcorn down for about 4 minutes and put on their analyst glasses, because what I am about to break down is the part that no reaction channel is going to give you. The first systemic angle is the most obvious once you actually look at it. The divorce itself is a content pipeline, and every single person attached to it has a financial relationship with the story staying alive. Think about what has been produced off the back of an unresolved marriage in the last year. Papoose got a redemption arc, a new public romance, a tattoo video that did numbers, a breakfast club sit-down with his new partner that generated clips for weeks. and a brand refresh that repositioned him from husband to available man at the exact moment his ex released new music. Remy Ma got the most cultural attention she has had in years, a diss record that the whole internet analyzed bar by bar, a cease and desist that turned into free marketing, festival bookings off the back of the drama, and a performance moment at Angie Martinez's barbecue that had every outlet in the culture writing about her again. Claressa Shields got a fight weekend that transcended boxing coverage entirely, a crossover event with Zeus Network celebrity bouts stacked underneath her main event, and a level of mainstream media attention that a woman's title fight does not normally generate, even for her. Now I want you to notice something. Every single one of those outcomes depends on the divorce not being finalized. If Papoose and Remy Ma finalize tomorrow, the story is over, the content machine loses its engine, the Stan Wars lose their fuel, the clickbait headlines lose their subject. There is a structural incentive woven through this entire saga for the resolution to keep getting postponed, and the people inside the story are not naive enough not to feel that gravity. I am not saying any of them are deliberately faking it, that would be too simple, but I am saying that human beings respond to incentives, and the incentive structure here screams keep it open, keep it loud, keep it in the feeds. The divorce decree is the only document in this entire saga that is worth less to every party the longer it sits unsigned, and yet it is the one document nobody seems to be able to produce. Ask yourself why. Then think about what happens to each of their careers the moment it drops. The second systemic angle is the Zeus Network element, and I need y'all to understand what actually happened in that building on August 15th, because it was a pivot point for the entertainment economy and almost nobody is talking about it in those terms. Here is what we know from the reporting. The night was structured as a co-bill, DAZN carrying the championship broadcast headlined by Claressa Shields versus K. Scott, and a Zeus Network celebrity boxing card opening the evening at State Farm Arena. With names like Ray J versus Orlando Brown in the ring, and reportedly performers and celebrities like Lado, YG, Saswaka, and Diamond the Body attached to the event in various capacities. Now pause and think about what that combination represents. Zeus Network built its brand on reality television drama, the love and hip-hop ecosystem, the kind of content that lives and dies on conflict staying unresolved between episodes. Boxing is a sport that lives and dies on matchmaking that generates hype and, increasingly, on celebrity exhibitions that bring casual eyes to the product. When those two machines share a building and a broadcast weekend, they are not just co-promoting, they are cross-pollinating audiences and, more importantly, they are normalizing the idea that the drama is the main event and the sport is the appetizer. Claressa Shields is a legitimate, all-time great athlete, and she deserved a night that was about her mastery of her craft, but what she got was a night where the biggest viral conversations were about who was in the building. Which celebrity had a beef with which celebrity, who could not get into VIP, and, of course, which legally married man was in her corner with fresh ink on his arm. I am not blaming Claressa for that. She did not design the culture, but I am pointing out that the machine around her designed that night, and the machine is very good at its job. The media ecosystem amplified the celebrity angle because celebrity content outperforms sport content on every engagement metric, full stop, and that is not an opinion. That is the algorithm speaking in numbers every channel in this niche has seen in their own analytics. And here is where it gets systemic. Every time a real athlete is packaged inside a celebrity drama wrapper, the long-term value of athletic achievement gets cheapened because the audience is being trained to care more about the side plot than the craft. 3 years from now, people will remember the tattoo and the prayer and the X's in the building from this fight weekend, and very few casual fans will remember that Claressa Shields added 2 more belts to her collection. That is the cost of the crossover, and it is a cost the whole sport is paying right now, not just Claressa. And the third systemic angle is the one that ties it all together, and it is the oldest one in the book, the public image versus the paper trail, and I need to say this slowly because it is the whole point. Papoose built a 15-year career on a single image, the man who waited. The culture gave him the crown for loyalty before he ever rapped a verse about it. His marriage was his brand identity. His brand identity was his marketability, and his marketability was his livelihood. Now the marriage is dissolving in public, and the man is faced with the hardest choice the loyalty brand can face. He can either close the chapter, sign the papers, and let the story end clean, which kills the redemption narrative but preserves his dignity. Or he can keep the chapter open, keep performing the new romance, keep the divorce unresolved, and keep feeding the machine, which keeps him relevant but slowly corrodes everything the brand stood for. And the evidence from this entire week suggests he chose option 2, and I say that with receipts. The tattoo went on the arm that still carries the old wife's name, and that is not an accident. That is a visual metaphor for the whole strategy. Never fully cover the old, never fully commit to the new. Keep both in the frame so both audiences stay engaged. The comment reply attacked a fan's body instead of addressing the substance, because addressing the substance would require admitting the priority is wrong. The club phone behavior says the performance has an off switch, and the off switch is the absence of cameras. And the refusal, reportedly, to move on the settlement demands, allegedly asking for half of everything, per Remy Ma's public statements, is the final confirmation. This is not a man who wants a resolution. This is a man who is pricing the resolution so high that it will never happen, which keeps the marriage legally alive, which keeps his narrative attached to the biggest name in his career, which keeps the whole thing in the feed. I want to be fair here, and I promised I would be, so let me say it. I do not know what is really happening inside that marriage. I do not know who hurt whom first. I do not know what the court documents will ultimately reveal. And neither does anybody on the internet who is not sitting in that courtroom. But I do know what is visible, and what is visible is a pattern that every single person who has ever watched a messy public breakup recognizes. The person who benefits from the story staying open is the person who keeps it open. And by that measure, the evidence this week is overwhelming. So now we get to the truth bomb, and I need y'all to lean in, because this is the part of the video that is going to have the stan armies in the comments fighting for their lives, and I am ready for it. Here it is. The ink on his arm was never for Claressa. It was for the internet. It was for the algorithm. It was for the woman he is still legally married to show her that he has moved on, and for the woman he is currently with, to show her that he is all in, and for every single person watching, to keep the conversation alive for one more news cycle. And I want you to test this theory against the timeline, because the timing is doing all the talking. The tattoo video reportedly dropped in the exact window of the biggest fight of his partner's year, the day around the fight, according to multiple reports, the same window that Remy Ma's new record "Wanna Go" was hitting the internet, reportedly. And suddenly the whole culture had two stories to track at once, the champion in the ring and the ink on the arm that the ex might see between bars. You do not schedule your most romantic public gesture of the year into that exact 48-hour window by coincidence. That is commissioning. That is programming. And it worked perfectly, because we are all here, talking about it, days later, dissecting a tattoo that, and let me be honest, 90% of people would never see in a million years, because it is small. It is in a spot that gets covered by a t-shirt. It is, as one commenter so beautifully put it, baby ink that can be covered up, while the tattoo that actually matters, the one on the lower arm that came before, is apparently still sitting there, untouched. Unreported as covered. Visible in every clip, because, allegedly, and this is the detail that makes the whole thing cinematic, PAPOOSE'S has reportedly said he cannot delete certain posts or alter certain things because he needs them for court. He needs the evidence of his life with one woman for the courtroom while he inks the name of another woman onto the same body. Now I need everybody to sit with that contradiction for a second, because that is the heart of the entire video. One arm carries the evidence he allegedly needs for the legal fight. The same arm carries the proof he wants the world to see for the PR fight. He is litigating and romanticizing out of the same body, and the only thing missing from the whole production is the one action that would end all of it, signing the papers. And here is my analysis, and I want to frame this as what I think is happening, because I want to be crystal clear that I am interpreting evidence, not reading minds. I think this man has figured out that the divorce is the most valuable asset he has left. Think about it. The moment the divorce is final, Remy Ma is free, and the narrative flips to being about why it took so long, and the questions get pointed at him, and the redemption arc dies, and the Stan Wars die, and the clickbait dies. And the man who was loyal for 6 years of prison visits becomes the man who asked for half of everything and dragged it out for years. As long as the divorce is not final, he gets to control the story. He gets to drip feed the romance. He gets to be the victim of a messy ex. He gets to keep his name in the culture's mouth. And he gets to do it all while publicly dating the greatest female boxer of all time, which, let us not pretend, is the single most powerful image upgrade a rapper of his vintage could possibly secure. So the divorce stays open. The ink goes on. The comments get spicy. The phone gets busy. The machine keeps feeding. And Remy Ma, who has reportedly been saying for months that she just wants to be free, stays locked in a legal limbo that every single person in this story except her seems to benefit from. That is the truth bomb, and it is not spicy gossip, it is structural analysis. In this story, closure is the one thing almost nobody has a financial incentive to produce. And I want to add one more layer to the bomb before I let you breathe, because there is a cruelty in the specifics that I do not want to skip. The comment that Papoose allegedly responded to, the one that said take that same ink and sign the papers, was not hate, it was not disrespect. It was a stranger looking at a public situation and gently suggesting that a human being's freedom might matter more than a tattoo of a new romance. And the response was an attack on that stranger's body, because the comment hit a nerve that no amount of Ed Sheeran can soothe. When a man attacks a stranger's body over a suggestion that he finalize his divorce, he is not defending his love, he is defending his stall, and the whole world watched him do it, and then he went back to his phone at the victory party, allegedly. Like the cameras had never been on at all. That, to me, is the entire story in one frame. The performance is beautiful, and the man behind it is checking his messages. Now, after all of that, after the ink and the prayers and the phones and the belts and the cease and desists, let me tell you who is actually winning this war, and I promise you it is not the person with the fresh tattoo. It is the woman who has been asking, publicly, for months, for the one thing nobody in this story wants to give her, her freedom. Remy Ma walked through the fire in this saga and never once lost her voice. She has been performing, she has been releasing, she has been standing on festival stages and turning cookouts into moments, and every single time she opens her mouth, she reminds the culture of the thing that made her a legend in the first place. She is not afraid of anybody. And here is the contrast one-liner that I need everybody to take with them. One person in this story keeps finding new ways to announce a relationship, and the other person keeps finding new ways to announce herself. While Papoose was sitting in a tattoo chair choosing a font for a romance that has not even legally begun, Remy Ma was changing her own lyrics on stage and putting his name in the record because she is not performing for him anymore. She is performing for herself. While the machine was packaging the fight weekend as a celebrity crossover spectacle, she was the only person in the entire saga who kept pointing at the actual thing that mattered, a human being's right to be done with a chapter that has been over for years. And I want to reframe a couple of moments through this lens, because the way the internet has been reading this story has been backwards. When Remy Ma says she just wants to be free, that is not bitterness, that is clarity. When she says the divorce will not be final until the half-everything demand stops, she is not being petty, she is being precise, and precision is the weapon of the person who is actually ready to move on. When she dropped the records and kept performing them after the cease and desist, she was not crashing out, as the kids say. She was refusing to be silenced by a man who has allegedly paid lawyers to keep her quiet while he refuses to close the legal door himself. And here is the part that makes her the hero of this story in my eyes. She keeps saying the same thing, in every platform, in every interview, in every performance, with a consistency that nobody else in this triangle can match. She wants out. She said it before the tattoo. She said it during the tattoo. And I guarantee you, she will still be saying it after the tattoo fades, because her goal has never changed, and that is the rarest thing in this entire saga, a person whose public position and private position are the same position. You cannot say that about the man who is allegedly asking for half while living publicly with another woman. You cannot say that about the woman who is allegedly telling everyone to move on while continuing to feed the storyline with every post, every response, every golden retriever performance at the press conference, every scroll through the phone at the club. The simulation of moving on is all around us. The real moving on is one person, and she has been standing in the same spot saying the same thing for over a year. And the culture knows it. That is why the comment sections keep shifting. That is why the empathy in the discourse keeps growing for her. That is why every time she performs, the support gets louder instead of quieter. Because people can smell the difference between a performance and a position. And in this story, only one person has a position. So yes, the man with the ink is losing, because every day he refuses to sign, he spends down the brand that took him 15 years to build. And the woman in the ring, for all her greatness, is losing something too, her peace, her privacy, her focus, to a storyline she keeps insisting is nobody's business, while she keeps making it everybody's business. But Remy Ma, the one everybody counted out, the one who was supposed to be the bitter ex, the one whose side of the story the algorithm tried to bury under Ed Sheeran edits. She is winning because she never stopped being the most honest person in the room. And in the long game, honesty always outlasts optics. The right person is not the one with the loudest campaign. The right person is the one who wakes up every day knowing exactly what she wants and says it out loud, over and over, until the world gets tired of hearing her say it and finally lets her have it.